G'day guys, Mackie with the Outer Circle, and joining me today is Ryan Kimmel, all the way from the US of A.
What's going on, guys?
And today we are talking about Hate, the new Kickstarter game coming out of Cool Mini or Not. I believe it's based on the Adrian Smith books, The Chronicles of Hate.
That is correct.
Which are a set of graphic novels which you've read, but I have not.
Yeah. They were put out by Image Top Cow Comics a couple years back, and they're like a hardback. They're like the size of the Heresy Red books. I guess if you're not familiar with the Heresy, they're about, I don't know, 15 inches tall and about 8 or 9 inches wide, and they're real nice, hardback books printed on nice paper, and all the art in them is done in black and white.
It's beautiful art. For those who aren't familiar with Adrian Smith's art, here are a couple of images on your screen right now of some of the stuff he's done for 40k and fantasy, just to give you an idea of his style and where it might relate to this game. So, Ryan, let's talk about Hate. First, the Kickstarter. Okay. What drew you to the Kickstarter, and what do you think it has to offer?
Okay, so what drew me to Kickstarter was last year at Gen Con. So it would have been Gen Con 2017, which happened in August. So 6 months ago, roughly? Yeah. I was there. I live in Indiana in the U.S., and Gen Con's 30 minutes from my house, so I go every year. And I went just, to go to Gen Con like I normally do, and I play this game called Dark Age, which is put out by Cool Mini or Not, so I wanted to go to the booth anyway. And then when I was looking at their booth, I saw that they had a whole bunch of Fire and Ice stuff, which I know that you backed and were really into. So I immediately messaged you and said, hey, do you want all these pictures? Do you want me to demo a game and all that? And we actually recorded an episode on your channel about that if people want to go back and listen. But while I was looking at the case at all the Fire and Ice miniatures, they had these really cool, Barbarian mixed with Mad Max, mixed with 40k fantasy, Warriors of Chaos, and I was blown away at the quality of the miniatures. And they had a box sitting behind it that just said Hate. And I desperately looked around for, a copy of the game, because I was going to pick up, see what it was, what the deal was with it and all that. And there was a few CMON employees running around, and I grabbed one. I'm like, what's the deal with this? And they're like, well, this is going to be our next Kickstarter after Fire and Ice. So once Fire and Ice is done and we're well underway with getting it ready to send out to the backers, we're going to do this Kickstarter, and it's supposed to happen either super late 2017 or very early 2018. So they said, if you're interested in it, look out for that. So I was like, well, I'm definitely interested, just based on how awesome the models were. And at that point, I did some Google searching and found this graphic novel. And I was like, oh, so it's based on this, graphic novel. And then I seen that it was done by Adrian Smith, who I was already familiar with because of playing, 40K, 30K, and fantasy. And I've always really, really liked his art. So I ordered the graphic novels off Amazon and read them and really liked the art and the story and everything in there, and then just basically was eagerly awaiting the Kickstarter to see what the actual game was about and see some gameplay and stuff. And after watching the video and looking at more of the miniatures and like I said, I already liked the story and saw the models in real life, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion I was going to back it.
So, alright, so the models first caught your eye, then you read the stories. So when the Kickstarter dropped, that filled in a lot of information, like how the game works, that kind of thing, as well as dropping the initial warbands that were available for it, or initial tribes, if you will.
Yep.
So at that point there, were you excited more, excited less? The game was something you were interested in, or did your excitement sort of go down? You went, oh, this is actually different to what I imagined, or...
Well, when I was at Gen Con, they said, well, this is going to be a board game, because the miniatures look like something for a miniatures war game. So I asked the guy, I'm like, so is this going to be like a miniatures game like Fire and Ice or Dark Age or something like that? And he's like, no, this will be a board game. So he's like, they basically described it as like a board game that had elements of a miniature war game as part of it. So I knew going into it that it was going to be played on like a defined area that would have some type of squares or hexes or something like that on it. So when it came out, it looks like it has a pretty big fold-out board. I mean, I obviously I haven't seen it yet, only on Kickstarter, but it looks like it's pretty good sized, and it has squares on it. And so the movement part of the game is very much like a board game, but the combat part of the game is very much more like a miniatures war game, I guess. So after watching the video, it's like a 53-minute video on the Kickstarter page for people who want to watch it. I was actually more excited because to me the game seems extremely fun, because the game that got me into miniatures games in general was the old Hero Quest, which was put out by Milton Bradley, and then I think Games Workshop helped them, but it was released under Milton Bradley, and then later on Games Workshop released Warhammer Quest, which was very similar to Hero Quest, but it was like a more campaign style than Hero Quest was. It was like an advanced version of Hero Quest, I guess. But the original Hero Quest, this has a lot of elements like that, where you basically use board game movement, you move a number of squares or whatever, just like Hero Quest was, and then the dice have swords on them to represent attacking, and then shields on them to represent defending. And then when you attack or defend, your character card will have a number of dice that you roll. Like you may have 3 attack dice, but only 2 dice in defense or whatever. And then you're looking for, when you're defending, you're obviously looking for the defense symbols. When you're attacking, you're obviously looking for the hit, the sword symbol or whatever. So the core mechanics like that were basically like the first miniature game I ever played.
Okay, so it's hard to explain to people who come from the Warhammer background what this sort of game is like, but I think the closest 2 examples you and I sort of came up with brainstorming this episode was Shadespire and Warhammer Quest itself.
Yeah, or I guess the new Necromunda, how it's like kind of board game based. I mean, but it's also a miniatures game. I mean, it's kind of similar there. I guess what I originally told you was it reminds me of Warhammer Quest as far as Warhammer Quest or Hero Quest as far as movement and combat, but a campaign system to go along with that that's very similar to Necromunda or Mordheim. At least the old versions. I've not played the new Necromunda, but the old version, like where you can sustain permanent injury, loss of limbs, gain scars, or gain experience and new skills and things like that.
Yeah, no, that is a good comparison. So it is a hard thing. I think the best way for people though to understand the gameplay is, well, for us to talk about it a little, but also for them to actually check out the gameplay video on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It doesn't cover everything because it doesn't have to. It's just trying to give you an idea of what it's about, but it's very much a campaign-focused thing where you're not so much just trying to win that one game, but you've got to look at the long run. And it's like, do you throw all your miniatures away to win a game, but then that might screw you over in the next one? Or do you play a bit more conservatively and know it's going to work out better for you in the long term? That's the sort of gameplay that it is. It's very campaign-based.
Right.
And also, the writers of the game seem to have a lot of fun with it. I've noticed with, like, the panda skins and that kind of thing.
Right.
So, definitely worth checking out for those who are interested, just based on the fact that it is something that you can very much make your own. And because it's an IP that hasn't really been explored before, apart from literally just a few graphic novels, it's pretty damn fresh, which I think's refreshing in its own right. So, alright. So, for the Kickstarter itself, it's already backed. It's actually earned about 5 times what it needed to.
I think it hit its $200,000 mark to be backed in 10 minutes.
Well, that'll do it. So, yeah. So, with the pledge and that itself, obviously, the basic game that they get with it, so they get the board game, they get the tokens, and they get the 2 warbands. But being...
4.
But, as I was about to say, being the Kickstarter, they're getting extra warbands thrown in. They're also getting an extra gaming map thrown in, so you can have 2 different games going at the same time, correct?
Right. Well, what I was saying is the base game had 4 warbands, and now they've expanded. Yeah, and now it's expanded where I think there's 2 that are just thrown in. So if you spend no other money other than the basic 120 to get it, you're going to get 6 regardless. And then there are 2 optional ones. So right now there's 8 possible warbands.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now, the system obviously uses cards, and the cards are used to describe the attributes of each of the miniatures. Now, I think one of the important things to note is that unlike other systems where you have like an A4 sheet of paper with your hero's characteristics written down on it and all their progression, this plays out a little bit differently because you have basically a clear slip that all your cards go into, and then additional special rules or bonuses they unlock are actually, I guess, printed onto the clear backings, and then you slip those in over the top of your card. So it puts in the special rules in layers on your card, and it actually is a pretty interesting way of doing it. I don't know if other games do it.
There's a card builder game that does that. I can't remember the name of the game. My sister's boyfriend really enjoys the game, and the way it works is the cards are real tall and long. Like, they're real tall and thin. So they're like the width of a Magic card, but like 3 times as tall. And then they'll only have like print on the card in like one of, like, the card's basically split into 3 sections. And usually a card will only have print on one of the 3. And as the game goes, you buy upgrades with in-game currency. And when you buy an upgrade, it's a clear sleeve like this game, and you slip it in, and it will add another attribute to the card. So this is very much like that card game, but you're actually doing it to the card that represents the miniature. So when you slip it into a certain ability, it'll give it a new ability or change its dice or whatever. And I believe the injuries and like permanent, like if you lose an arm or whatever, it does the same thing, but instead of adding something new, it literally covers up parts of the card that would normally have like an attack value or dice or something like that.
Yeah, which is I think pretty interesting. It's a good way of doing it because, especially, you know, because they all go into a single little transparent sleeve. You can constantly load that up with all the upgrades your character has, and you can just leave it in the sleeve. Go around, go over to a mate's house, pull out the game to play another one, and hey, your character's all ready to go. You don't have to rummage through your deck and find the appropriate cards that go with that character.
Right.
So, yeah, good thing. So, scrolling further down, we have some of the imagery in colour, though. I'm assuming they must have got Adrian Smith on board at Cool Mini or Not to actually do some of this artwork for them.
Yes.
For the book. Which is cool, because it's always good to have the actual source involved, unless that source is Stephen King, because he's just fucking weird. And you can kind of get a sense of what this game is like. These are sort of your techno-barbarians, I think it's a good way to put it. Lots of axes, lots of leather, lots of chainmail, lots of horns. Think Chaos Warriors from fantasy.
Yeah, they're like a mix of Warriors of Chaos and Chaos Marauders from like the golden age of Warhammer Fantasy.
And something they do point out is that it's M for mature audiences. This is an adult game.
Yeah, it's the only game that I've seen the trailer for where they actually swear. It's actually a little over the top and almost kind of silly, but it's kind of funny too. Like, it harkens back, for me, it made me chuckle, and it reminded me of like movies from the late 80s, early 90s that a studio would never release today.
Well, no, you know what it is? It reminds me of Paul Verhoeven films, of like the RoboCop, the satire.
Right. That's so exactly right.
It almost belongs up there on a RoboCop ad, like kill, fuck, rape. You know, that sort of catchwords that it uses, which
Everything's gone to shit. We ruined Mother Earth, and now we scrape the flesh from her bones. In the wastes, only the most savage can survive. This isn't a world for the weak. If you want to rule, you have to fucking kill everyone. That's all we know. That's all we have. Only hate.
Which, yeah, I think is fun.
Yeah.
So we get to the first of the tribes now, and this is the tribe of Umgra. What do you think of these ones, Ryan? Are these one of your favorites?
Let me look at it here. This is...
As we scroll down the Kickstarter, obviously for those who are looking, Ryan and I are both at different points on the page, so I've scrolled down to the first set of tribes, and now Ryan's got to play catch up with me.
Yep. Sorry, I went too far. So... Well, damn it. You may have to edit this out, man. Let me find it here.
Or leave it in just for your own shame.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, here I spotted them. Yeah, these guys are actually really cool. So, the way each tribe works is they're all kind of built like in a similar way. So every tribe has what's called a prince, which is like a large centerpiece model. And then they have a champion, which is kind of like a mini prince. And then they have like a shaman, which is more of a magic user, and they give abilities to your tribe. And then you got two what they call young bloods, which are kind of like, I guess, your shitbirds, like throwaway. They're like, you know, new people to the tribe that don't have like the full experience and like war gear yet, so they're kind of lightly armored, and they have like a range. They're the only ones with range other than the shaman. And then you have 6 what are your essentially your basic warriors. So I guess when I looked at the different tribes, I was always like, when I look at them, I'm like, well, I really like the prince for this one, but I don't necessarily care for the champion as much, like kind of like that. But overall, I like this tribe. Like, basically just going off looks, I think the prince looks cool. I think the champion looks cool. The shaman's cool. The young bloods are cool, and this is one of the ones, like, they're not my favorite. Like, if I just like separated them into categories, like I said, they don't have like my favorite sculpts of any of those, but all of them are solid, if that makes sense.
It does. Something we were talking about before the show was also the princes themselves. They're not humans.
No,
not in our sense of what's human anyway. Right.
They're a race in that they call the Varn, Varn, and they're essentially like 3 times the size of, I guess, a human. They would be what would be like an ogre or a giant. Like, if people who watch Game of Thrones on TV, they look about like the size of one of those giants in Game of Thrones, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe a little smaller.
Which is something I didn't really know until you actually told me. Which I'll freely admit things I don't know.
Right.
And yes, they're the people who actually lead the warband, which is part of the reason why they're so strong, and they are strong for those who haven't watched the gameplay, which I'm assuming most people here haven't, because this is not a widely known IP.
Right.
Not like Warhammer or Star Wars, that kind of thing. These guys are ridiculously powerful. They but it's the catch-22 there. They're harder to activate, and if you lose it, it's really going to hurt you.
Correct.
So it's not just like you can go to this one model and use it to steamroll through the other guy. That may happen, but I definitely wouldn't put my eggs in that basket. So,
correct.
All right. Below that, we have actually just a list of the sort of cards that people can expect. Now, these are really simple in how they work. So the card matches up directly with that warrior, and you'll notice that the warrior has a coloured base. So it could be warrior, youngblood, champion, prince, any of that kind of thing. So the base is coloured so that you can tell which model it belongs to. And the bases also have different coloured trim around the edges. So if 2 of the same tribe, for whatever reason, are fighting one another, you don't get confused.
Right, and then also, well, the way it works is you get 6 warriors, but there's only 3 different sculpts, so you get duplicates. But one will be colored with like a green base and one will have a blue base. So that's the other reason.
And then on top of that, the actual what you see on the cards themselves. So the dice are basically how many attack dice and how many defense dice you get. It's really simple combat, and unlike Shadespire, where they sort of convolute it by having you add and subtract and that kind of thing, this is just a flat out, this is what you get, and if someone else is nearby, they will add this to you. And that's a good system.
I agree. It's going to make it still tactical, where its model position is extremely important, but it's really easy just to glance down and go, well, this guy's normally 2 dice, but I have a guy next to him that gives +1 support for attacking, and then I have another guy that gives +2 support for attacking, so that's going to be a total of 5 dice that I'm rolling to attack.
Exactly, and as people can see, for example, the Youngblood there, he's a ranged attacker, but he's only got a single attack and a single defense, whereas the Prince on the top left is 4 times as powerful, roughly speaking.
Right.
Again, it's one of those things that you sort of will have to watch the gameplay to fully understand.
Correct. And then some things give support in defense, some things give support in attack, and then as you buy upgrades, you can change your dice or add dice or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And then the way the game actually plays is there's terrain on the actual board, and different terrain may add or subtract defense dice. So there's actually a terrain element to the game as well.
Yes, and there's also something that we'll come into later is objectives, for example, can be terrain based that are placed onto the board.
Right. And then every tribe has their own unique deck as well, and you get to reveal so many cards a turn, and you can basically spend this resource called Savagery to activate the card, which may then add or subtract defense dice or give you a special ability or give you extra movement or anything like that.
It's all about savagery, this game. You'll notice, you'll pick that up very quickly. So the next tribe we come to is the Umrak. And the Umrak they're the Hivemind Tribes. This is one of the ones that they used, or the other one that they used in the introductory video. But essentially they're a tribe that all their bonuses are generated from working with one another. So where some tribes may be about solo warriors or just savagery, getting it or spending it, these guys are all about working together. So ganging up your models, supporting one another, that kind of thing.
Right.
Where do you stand on the Umrak?
So once again, just going off the sculpts, this is probably one of my favorite warbands of the original 4. I think this is overall my favorite. I really love this Prince model. I just think he looks really cool. I love his armor, and his weapons are real unique. They're like a cleaver, but I don't know. How would you describe that weapon? I mean, a cleaver would be the closest thing, but it's pretty wild looking.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like he's just holding a guillotine blade or something in his hand. Maybe like a Klingon batleth off Star Trek.
Yeah. And I really like the Shaman. This tribe has a really bulky Shaman, and he's carrying a bucket of heads, severed heads. And I think the Champion is pretty cool. If you read the fluff that they sent out in the email, this tribe, the way they came about was they would scour the wastelands for any type of monster, or maybe a Varn that wasn't leading a tribe, or other humans or wild animals, and they would have to work together as a team to capture it because it was really dangerous, and they would drag it back to a city and then host games like gladiatorial games. So if you look at the Champion, he's got a flail, like a chain flail, and some stuff like that. He kind of reminds me of something you would see like as a pit master or a pit fighter or something like that, and that's kind of how these guys are armed and armored.
Yeah, I could see that. They've got that gladiator sort of look to them, a lot of exposed flesh, that kind of thing. Yeah. Chaos Marauders is also the other thing that comes to mind, but again, that's something that sort of works at every one of these warbands.
Right.
So, moving on from there, we get to the Kator. What do you think of these guys?
So,
they've got probably my favourite Shaman. Sorry to chime in.
Oh no, yeah, yes, it's a female shaman. She's really cool. She looks like she's like in the middle of like a prayer or almost like a summoning thing or spell casting. And I like their warriors are really cool too. They almost look they all got like an axe hammer thing. They're like a maul. Some of them have axes and some of them have mauls.
Like a mattock.
Yeah. And I think their champion's really cool. They almost look these are almost like a Conan type guys. Does that make sense? Like they look something out of a Conan novel with the fur and the kind of the open-faced helmets on some of them and like some animal horns. My least favorite model in here, this is probably my least favorite Prince model.
Yeah, agreed. He just looks like a big dumb Shrek type. An ogre,
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it a troll or something in the second Harry Potter film? Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Just not cool. Not my favorite.
He's real tall and thin. He almost looks like an old Warhammer fantasy giant, something like that. Kind of tall and
weirdly built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him or the Youngbloods really, but I like the warriors, the shaman, and the champion.
Next we get to the Umcal. This is one that looks really cool in the artwork. I like the champion, but I don't like the prince as much. He looks much better in the artwork with his sort of like wooden crown, but he looks just kind of not derpy, but something's off about him. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's one of those miniatures that you sort of have to hold in your hand to appreciate, but...
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I really do like the champion. He's kind of like standing at ease with the swords, like hanging down and they're kind of crossed or whatever. This one has my least favorite shaman.
Yeah, agreed.
He's very blah. He's just kind of a old homeless-looking guy with 2 daggers.
I think he's got a peg leg as well. So he's actually just some like shitty pirate they've just co-opted into their gang.
I do like the Youngbloods in this one. They're like they're female warriors and they have a really cool-looking spear and they're like have very heavy furs on, with like an animal
wolf pelt or something.
Yeah, they look really cool. So these guys are like heavily at least the Youngbloods are heavily pelted. The warriors I think are fairly average. I'm with you. I like the champion, the Youngbloods a lot, and then I think the only prince worse than this is the one we just talked about, and then I don't like the shaman model at all.
Yep, I can agree with that. So moving further on down, we get to some of the mercenaries. So obviously the first one that jumps out to me is actually the Tyrant, who is the big motherfucker with all the skulls hanging from his belt on the left.
Yeah, so this is the main antagonist in the graphic novel. He's like he's the most powerful warlord of this particular world. And then next to him, you'll see the shaman that is has a bunch of, like a crow feather cloak, and has 2... it doesn't really explain what they are in the graphic novel. That's not actually built into the cloak. That's actually 2 individuals, and they're like child-sized. They're like toddler-sized people with a mask on that makes them look like they have bird beaks. He's always huddled around. They're always huddled around the shaman. He's very creepy and cool in the graphic novel. The shaman is one of my favorite parts of the graphic novel. This particular shaman.
I actually really like the one on the far right, who's it's got this whole weird Quaid, you must find Quaid, that Quatto from Total Recall.
It reminds me of Master Blaster because it's actually 2 people. It's and I don't know what the story is behind this, but it's like a really badass like Chaos Knight guy with another person like strapped on his chest like a baby Bjorn, and that person is missing its legs.
Yeah, it's a plate of armor, really. Yeah, that was the other one I was thinking of, was Master Blaster, but I thought because it's on the front, that gives me that Quatto feel from the original Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that weird mutant dude on his chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, It's so out there and creepy. I think it's great. That's the sort of shit I love. I think the top left is one of the weaker sculpts, personally.
The Beastman thing?
Beastman, yeah. He's got sort of like an orc face on a Beastman body, and it just... Something about the pose, the way he's holding the arms, just doesn't do it for me. But again, it may be one of those models that in person's fucking fantastic.
The top left is the only female Varn that they have in the game and also in the graphic novel. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, sorry, the top right?
Yeah, top right. Sorry.
Yeah. She also pops up in one of the Battle Report videos.
Right.
So, yeah, she's pretty cool. Interesting to see that it's not hypersexualized. I know people complaining about that recently on my channel, but
yeah,
the fact is she's just sort of like a very solid build, and you can see like she's been well fed, and obviously to be well fed in this world means you've got to be pretty fucking badass. So it's actually telling something in this about the world. It's saying this person is someone you have to be worried about. If you see a person that's this build and is not emaciated, then clearly they're dangerous.
Right, because we didn't really talk about it, but in this particular world, the basic resource is other living things and usually other people. So everybody's running around. Everybody you kill usually ends up on the cooking fire, and they eat them later.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Whereas in games like Mordheim, you can capture someone from the other warband, and you can like trade them back for gold, that kind of thing. In this game, you can just outright eat the person that you captured from the other warband.
Yep, or torture them to death.
Or torture them, yeah.
If you eat them, you gain resource, and if you kill them, you gain, or if you torture them to death, you gain hate. And then when you finally score at the end of the game, you take whatever your lowest is. So you have basically it makes it so you have to pay attention to both. You can't just say I'm only going to focus on resource and not hate. You have to focus on both, because at in the end game phase, when you determine who the winner is, you have to use your score is the lower of those two, plus there's a map, and as you play the game, you choose territories on the map to attack, and then if you conquer them, you actually put your symbol down. It's like looks like it's dry erase. Each of those territories has associated victory points to them, so you basically total up the victory points of your territories and then add it to the lesser of your two scores between your hate and resource, and that's your final score. And at the end of the campaign, whoever has the highest score wins.
Which is a good way of doing it, because again, it makes people think, which is something you touched on right at the start of that statement, is that, you know, you can't just focus on one thing because it's going to hurt you in the other area.
Right.
So, yeah, the actual board itself, so people can sort of get an idea about it. It's pretty similar size to, I think, the Blood Bowl board. It's probably a similar Games Workshop comparison. And again, Games Workshop comparison is something I use a lot on this channel because that's the biggest game. It's the one that people will mostly recognise.
Right.
So, and on it you can also see there's different terrain tiles have been added to it, such as the huts at the back, and there's the rocky ground, that kind of thing. That's important because that is how this game works. There's a lot of overlays, whether it's overlays for special rules on cards or overlays on the terrain itself. So, now we get into the Kickstarter exclusives and the stretch goals and quality of the miniatures. So, first up we have a picture of that little guy, Quarto, I'm going to call him.
Yep.
And in resin and plastic, so people can see what it actually looks like and the quality of the sculpt. Needless to say, these are pretty much the masters, but they're fucking amazing.
Yeah, earlier when we were saying we don't really like this model or whatever, it still is like the level of detail on the models that we're saying we don't like is still mind-blowing. I would rate them like high-end, top of the industry level of detail.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So that's one thing that's in their favor just straight off the bat. That kind of quality is something that a lot of games companies promise but rarely deliver on. And if they can deliver this sort of quality on the end product, I think that's in and of itself something to actually praise. So obviously we go through the different components in the game, the pledge level, that kind of thing. So one of the early things unlocked is the Tyrant pledge, which I believe they get the Tyrant in as well.
Yeah, the Tyrant pledge is the 4 basic tribes, and then that group of mercenaries that we saw with the Tyrant and the female Varn and your Quarto guy and all that. And then you get all the the base game with all the tokens and whatever. That's just your base pledge. And then this pledge also comes with all of the free stretch goals.
And it actually has the warband I like, which is the Gore. That's the warband I actually am into. The Shaman's okay, but I like the Champion and the Prince the most. That's the one we haven't really got to yet. One of the stretch goals.
Yeah, this is the one that has the Prince is extremely armored. It almost looks like a knight.
Yes, but I like them because of like the Champion is just like this big fat dude, like an Immortan Joe type with the skulls in his hair. I don't know. There's just something about them that I really like because of that. It's that whole storytelling aspect I was talking about with the female earlier. How clearly the Champion, the warriors, they're well fed. Like they're not starving in the wasteland. That means they're definitely cooking a lot of people in the oven.
Correct.
And the Kordu are coming up, which not everything's been released for, but they have one of my favourite shamans. Which is this shaman that has like all these skulls and...
It looks like a very hunched over old man, and then he's got this crazy backpack with a bunch of poles sticking out of it with skulls on top of it. And if you look at the art or the painted figure, he has his actual face painted like a skull, and because he's got this backpack that's like framed him with skulls, it almost looks like in all those scary movies where somebody always has the inevitable wall of dolls or the wall of stuffed animals, and one of them is alive, but you're just looking at the wall of faces and you can't pick out which one it is. That's kind of what this guy reminds me of.
Yeah, Bolton, we're looking at you. Then there's some more mercenary figures. The Spore Child, who I think has some great artwork, and I think we actually have a picture of that one painted up as well.
Yep.
Tundor the Shamed, who I kind of like. He just looks so sad. He like with the lowered weapons and the low pointing head, he actually just looks like he's kind of depressed. Like sad Keanu or something, like he's waiting at a bus stop.
This is actually one of my favorite models. He just looks like a total badass. Like, I love his armor, I love his helmet. And they have there's a painted picture of him that I sent to you. And I don't know, I just think it's a really cool model. It's very Viking. It looks very Viking.
Yes. Then there's the More Horror from the Ashes, who's sort of like a Chaos Spawn type dude, who's just a mutant, essentially.
Yep.
Who eats everything he comes across, which is, yeah, I can understand that. And Croc, which hasn't been released yet. Now we get to the gameplay video, so people who do want to check out the gameplay, just watch this video. It'll tell you everything you need to know, or at least enough information to get started. So the tribe of Sarasa, the shaman in this one, I can't tell. I think it's the one with the white base at the back with the 2 swords.
It is.
But what I find strange is that the prince is like this sort of undead, spectral, Grim Reaper type prince with just this big mutated, like, balloon tumor on his back.
I think it's supposed to be... So these guys, in the graphic novel... There's the slang term for them is they just call them the Rot. Everybody else in the world calls them the Rot, and it's this weird disease thing that has infected the forests. And then what happens is if you get anywhere near these forests that are infected, the trees and shit will actually come to life and impale you with roots, Evil Dead style, and then like turn you into like an undead tree person.
Oh no, tree rape.
Yeah. So I think that this brain-looking thing or like sack is like one of the if you look at the art in the book, the forest, like as you get to the center of these I guess like haunted forest or mutated forest. There's a bunch of those, and I think that's actually kind of like the master race, like what's causing the sickness, and it's grown directly into this guy and is like directly, puppeteering him.
Which is cool. I mean, parasites are always cool.
Right.
Then there's the Untitled tribe, which I think it's interesting to note that these guys are sort of more mutantish, whereas the Sarasara, again, that parasite thing, and they don't even have a name like the other tribes do, which is also something that adds to their character. Like, they're incapable of giving themselves a traditional tribe's name, or that they're not really that one tribe. They're an amalgamation of other tribes that have all been corrupted by the forest and become one tribe. Is perhaps a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and they released in an email that this tribe, the undead tree people, these the tribe of Sarasa, the rot people, they play totally different than anyone else. So the way that they actually play, you only so a normal game is 4 rounds. These guys have to win inside of 2, or they basically lose automatically. But to make up for that, their individual models are harder to KO and have better stats.
Interesting. I'll be interested to see if you can drag them off as well. Because whether people would want to eat such corrupted things.
Yeah, that may
be something that you can only torture to death or something. I don't know.
Right.
Which would be another interesting gameplay element, because if someone's invested all their points in their furnace, could be a problem. All right, so the Untitled. Get back to these guys. Sorry, we got sidetracked by Sarasa again, because they're a cool concept.
Right.
These are like your mutants, your more mutated warband. So where the others are various kinds of barbarian, these guys are clearly a bit more bestial.
Correct. And they have a little story, once again, like, so if you're a backer, they send you like an email every day, and it usually has background and actual painted versions of the models and stuff like that. So the background of these guys, these Varn that get infected with this, whatever this Varn has, they try to isolate themselves. And the Varn in this had isolated himself in a cave. And the female shaman that's riding the wolf, which is another cool feature of this tribe, she's the only mounted model in the game so far. She basically finds him in this cave and frees him, and then, makes him the leader of this warband. And whatever this disease is that this Thul has, it can also spread, like you can actually contract it from them. That's why they isolated themselves.
Yes, gotta love sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah, something like that.
No, I think it's cool, because again, every warband has their own thing, their own niche. Like, although they're all really similar in the fact that, everyone has a prince. Everyone's got, pretty much everyone has a prince, a champion, shaman, a couple of warriors, a couple of young bloods.
Right.
But they've differentiated them in their poses, their styles of combat, and also their background fluff, and they've tried to incorporate them together, which is a hard thing to do. It's hard. People don't give enough respect to sculptors in what it's like to try and convey the background meaning behind something in a visual format. Because when you're looking at a 28 or 32 mil miniature sitting on a tabletop, it's very hard to get across things like aggression and lust and greed, and I have no envy of sculptors for having to try and convey those principles. And I think what's lovely is that all across this range, they've done a great job of that.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the quality and the detail of the sculpts as well. The amount of time that it would take to do all these individuals.
So next, there's the Hate art book. Are you going to get it? Is my first question.
I put the money in to go ahead and get it, but obviously you can change your pledge at any time, and then as they add stretch goals, I could also just reallocate the money I've already added to get the book to get something else. That being said, I will probably get it just because I love Adrian Smith's art. And his art brought this universe to life, and it's one of the reasons I think the models and the aesthetic of the game is so cool. So I probably will get the book, but I could see a lot of people passing on this in favor, because this book is the same price as the optional tribes. So these 2 tribes we just last covered, the Sarasa and the Enthrall, these are the only 2 optional buys to actually get miniatures, and they're $25 each, and they each come with 11 models, so you're getting 11 models for $25. And this art book is also $25 US, which is the same price to get the book.
I really want to get that Sarasa tribe, I won't lie. I think they just a pleasure to paint. I love weird, corrupted shit like that. That's my niche. So yeah, I think if I pledge, which I'm undecided on this for those who are watching, I haven't pledged yet. You have, Ryan?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm still in the umming and ahhing stage, in all honesty. So don't think, people, that I'm just here going, yeah, this is awesome. You've got to, you got to get this pledge. It's the greatest thing ever, because I'm not going to make that statement because I don't know. I haven't even decided for myself yet. And all we're doing is sort of just going through, having a look, talking a bit about the lore, the miniatures, that kind of thing, just to give people a bit of an understanding, because it's not something that's done a lot, unfortunately. Like, people don't go through the Kickstarters and go through like each individual Kickstarter the company puts out and say, hey, check this out for the audiences. So for those who are interested, that's all we're doing today.
Right.
But yeah, I think I just love art books in general. So even if I didn't back it, I would give you money to get me a copy of the art book.
Right.
Because like I've got like Weta art books from like the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. I have art books from different Marvel movies, Star Wars artwork books. I love conceptual art for things as well. But it's a bit of a sickness, and it's probably half my bookshelf covered in it.
Well, the other cool thing is this book looks like it's the same size and the same basically design and materials as the graphic novels are, so it'll look good sitting on the shelf next to my graphic novels.
Blend right in. Alright, so the next one down is the 3D plastic huts. Now, what I can say is, from my experience with the Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter, the plastic terrain looks very good. They've previewed quite a bit of the plastic terrain with the Song of Ice and Fire, and it pretty much looks exactly like the 3D renders do. So if anyone does want to buy a set of plastic huts for their game, I think they're going to look exactly like this. That's not the company making a promise, that's me saying I dare say.
Well, and me playing other games, I play Dark Age a lot, and then if you played, say you played Gorka Morka or played any other game like that, even if you didn't back it, if you have a friend that's backing it, it's only $15 for 8 of these huts, and they actually look really cool, and you could even use them for other miniatures games, if not this particular game.
Well, you could use them, like I could use them for my Song of Ice and Fire. They could be Wild Wing huts or something.
Right.
So, again, there's options available here. There's also your tokens, there's card packs for different tribes, which will get unlocked through stretches. And, of course, different miniatures, which all of these have been unlocked so far, like the Spore Child. I like the Umgor Shaman, that little thingy, the thing of heads. The face paint is what gets me. I love that sort of, like, creepy version of like a Native American war paint.
Right. Yeah, it definitely looks really cool.
That
guy has like
tokens.
He's got a stump arm. I think his arm is just a stump with a blade attached to it as well.
Yes, it is.
Which is pretty cool.
Well, sometimes you lose limbs in the wasteland.
Right.
They've got to find a way to work a guy into this who's named Max and has a double barrel shotgun, but maybe it's just me. Tundar the Shamed, Umgor Youngbloods. So Savagery Tokens. Now, Savagery Tokens is one of these things you're going to need a lot of. because there is a lot that will be earned in game and a lot that will be spent in game. So I'd say you're probably going to end up with at least 10 at any one time, if the whole tribe is involved in action.
Yep.
The extra game board is also being thrown in as well with the basic Kickstarter now.
The other cool thing about this extra game board to point out, so in the base game, it was designed for 2-on-2. So, like, let's say you and Kat and me and Michael were all going to sit down and play for the evening. If we just had the original core game, we would only be able to play 2 at a time. So, like, 2 of us would have to play while 2 of us set out, and then we would switch. Well, when you get the extra game board, because you're playing a campaign thing, so if you have 4 people in the campaign, they can all now play all at once. And then the other advantage is when they released this extra game board, they released special scenarios where you can put both boards together and play either 2-on-2 games, 2-on-1 game, like 2 players fighting 1 player, or a 4-player free-for-all, just like a grand melee battle with the rules to do that.
Which is, again, options. Options are good.
Right.
Fuck, that Ungor Prince is cool.
It's a very cool model.
Yeah, my favourite warband, so forgive me for harping on. So, yeah, as you can see, a lot of stretch goals. There's that Uncordu Shaman that we were talking about before, with his skull-painted face and all the skulls hanging around him. He's a pretty cool looking dude. Sort of looks a bit like the Crow, like Brandon Lee's Crow with his face paint.
Well, what's wild, if you notice, he's got his head like shaved down the middle like a reverse mohawk with like long lanky hair on the sides, and he's painted the skull on his forehead / the top of his head with his own face underneath, painted like with blood streaks. I don't know, it's very odd.
It is. It's creepy, but in a good way. And of course there's the traditional shipping information, what it will cost you, how long the pledge takes, to basically months. It takes many months, like 6 months from when the Kickstarter ends to when you'll see miniatures. It's probably the best way to put it.
They said January of next year is when they're hoping.
Yeah, which is pretty normal. I mean, April is the Song of Ice and Fire. It'll start coming out to us in April, maybe May. We'll see how we go. So yeah, that's the sort of timeline you're looking at. But there is a lot in the base box, which I've just scrolled back up to. The Tyrant Pledge, you get a lot of stuff. And then there's the optionals, which is, of course, the 2 other warbands and the art book. Which, and again, there'll probably be more, because the project still has a little bit to go, and the more stretch goals that get unlocked, the more things will pop up.
Yeah, it's not even halfway done. I think it started with 25 days, maybe, or maybe 20 days, and it's down to 13. Yeah, it's been up for about a week.
Yeah,
It's got
and
2
I've
weeks left.
been following it pretty much since it since you brought it to my attention that it was on Kickstarter, I think, and just watching how quickly it's gained its money. So people are keen for it. I can say that much.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the other things that I've got down here is a whole bunch of pictures that you've sent me from the emails you've received of the actual miniatures themselves, but painted up this time.
Correct.
So yeah, this is the first miniature I've got. And is it a Youngblood leaning on the spear, or a warrior?
Yes. Youngblood.
Yeah, so he's got his fishhook, and the Youngbloods are typically the ranged unit in each tribe. And they're also probably the worst unit in each tribe.
Yeah, they're definitely disposable.
They're one you don't mind getting hauled off to the oven. Champion and the Prince, on the other hand, you don't want them to go to the oven.
Correct. Or Shaman.
Yeah, or Shaman. The next one down is a warrior, I believe, and he's got this real crude sort of weapons, but they just look crude and brutal. Brutal is the word I'm looking for. I don't quite get the Gimp mask, but I do like the Mad Max reference of a Gimp mask. So this is tasteful blood spatter too, so kudos to the painter. I like to see very minor, basic blood splatter like this. I don't like it when people cover half the miniature in blood and it looks like they were an extra in the movie Carrie.
Yeah.
So yeah, another beautiful sculpt. And if there's any one you want to dwell on as we go, just feel free to stop me, Ryan. Shaman,
no, it's fine.
Shaman with the bucket of heads. So I love these models that start to get a little bit larger than the rest of the crowd because there's more detail on them. These are a painter's wet dream. I think even if you don't play Hate, I want to paint every single one of these models. Like, I just want to paint them all. They look beautiful with like the bits of brass and rusty steel that they've got for like their armor and their weapons, and then the flesh and the leather contrasting with it. And it's probably human leather. It's something else to point out.
Yeah. Well, like some of them have just like some really cool, like the one prince has like a belt that's just full of arms. He literally has like 6 arms hanging off his belt, severed arms, which is fucking crazy. And then he has this like ring of animal horns like around his neck, framing his head. It just looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite prince models. This one.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's dead sexy. Not the Umgor Prince again. The faction I like the most. He reminds me of like the old school Chaos Warriors. He's got that with again the contrast of like the silvers, the bronzes, the brutal battle axe, the furs, the skulls, everything about him it takes me back to like a happy place from when Warhammer Fantasy was a thing and when it was good Warhammer Fantasy.
Right. That shield, man, I love his shield.
Oh, it just looks like he's gonna like just shield charge someone and just impale them, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I would say he's the most armored model in the game. Like he definitely, like he jumps out as being the most armored figure in the game. Like he's covered head to toe in armor, where all the other figures have at least a little bit of flesh showing.
Yep. But you know, you make up for that with other models like these warriors here, who they got that sort of like Conan meets Mad Max look. With like the Conan the Barbarian, the exposed flesh, and then you've got like the like leather gimp masks over the top of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it's little things. It's little things that amuse me. Is this one of the shamans, with the hammer and the cord sort of sword or knife that he's holding outstretched, or is that the champion?
That's the champion of the tribe. It's the very first tribe we went over, and it's the one with the prince. He goes with the prince that has the crown or the ring of animal horns around his neck with the arms on his belt.
On his belt. Yep.
Yeah.
You can just imagine some sort of like give him a hand pun, can't you? Now.
Yeah, for sure.
These next ones, they're from that Mutated warband, aren't they?
Yeah, the Enthrall.
Yeah, the very last ones that we looked at. And so you can see like they got the horns coming out of the forehead, and they got that more sickly skin color. Like something says they're diseased about them, because instead of the rich pinks and bronzes of the other tribes, these guys look sickly. Which again, subtle painting and sculpting working in unison.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the one a lot of them are they're barefoot, and they don't have as much metal on them. They just have more furs, so they look like poorer, like because these guys are supposed to be like more from the wasteland. So they're a little less armored and don't look as they like I said, they look kind of like poor and like more ragged, I guess. And then I love the one guy that's running and has like the little mutant baby arm growing out of his ribs for no reason.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, these things happen out in the wastelands.
Yeah.
So now we get to some more, I believe, the champion with the flail, who's got that whole sort of like pit fighter look about him, and I love the expression on his face. Just this sort of snarling face he has.
Yeah.
Just he looks like he's smiling as he's sizing someone up. Like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking eat you tonight. I'm gonna cook you in my oven. That sort of mentality. Love it.
I love all the straps. Like his armor is almost made purely of straps on his torso and arms. It just looks really cool.
Straps are something that's cool, aren't they? Like, there's something across the whole sort of range of the hate miniatures. I love this guy with the like the straps and staples going into his mouth, so it's sort of forming this sort of rictus grin on him.
Yeah.
And
These guys have a lot of those. They have a lot of things that go in or around their mouths. Like the one guy has like a weird leather gimp mask that almost has like a round, like lamprey mouth with like teeth going into it.
Yeah, that's the prince, I think, isn't it, of that warband?
Well, the prince has like a. If you turned a mouth vertically, he's got like his head is like, it looks like his skin is dyed blue, and then he's just got like this weird like strap helmet with a mouthpiece that goes over his mouth that makes the mouth run up and down instead of left to right.
Yes.
And then there's another warrior in the tribe that has like a, looks like a...
The black gimp mask with the round mouth on it.
Yes. Yeah. And he's got like two cleaver looking weapons.
So the next one along is that mutated Enthrall prince, who has just the twin axes, and he has all the horns and growths and tumours coming out of his skin. I like this guy a lot.
Yeah, he's very... He kind of looks like a troll, like a traditional troll.
Yeah, a bit more of a chaos troll type vibe with like the horns coming out of him, but the way he's hunched over, he's got that more bestial feel to him. Which, yeah, again, I'm a glutton for those sort of things. Of course, the Shaman, who, yeah, I love the face paint. That sort of red and skull face paint that they have.
Right.
I want to paint the tribe with that because I love that whole creepy face paint. Like, I saw this this movie, Bone Tomahawk. I don't know if you've seen that with Kurt Russell.
I know what it is, but I've actually not watched the movie.
Right. Gil, this reminds me of the tribe in that a little bit. So spoilers, well, no spoilers really, but go watch Bone Tomahawk, viewers. Next one along, we have the female shaman in all her boobtacular glory, and of course one of the warriors.
The female shaman in this, I really like how they painted her, where her arms are like bloody all the way up past the elbow, and she's holding like the sacrificial dagger in the heart. You can see the heart peeking out right from underneath the knife, where she's holding the heart in one hand and the dagger in the other.
You know what I like about it? It's the greens. The use of the greens, and with the red down her arms and the like gold armbands, reminds me of like an Aztec priest.
Yeah, she's very cool.
She looks like the priest in Apocalypto. Oh no, have you seen Apocalypto?
Yeah, that's the Mel Gibson movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she looks like she should be on top of like an Aztec temple sacrificing people to, you know, a diverse range of bird-headed gods.
Yeah, she's definitely cool. She's one of my favorite shaman. This one, she might be my favorite shaman. I don't know, I like her a lot.
She's very cool. Then we have an Ungor warrior, who... this is one of the downsides. Like, I like the Ungor warband, and because this guy has a helmet, I actually like it less than the bare head. Because I want to be able to paint the war paint onto him, but Ungor seem to have a lot more armor than other people, so I guess it makes sense.
Right.
Plus, he's got a pretty cool shield.
Yeah, it's got like a snarling demon face on the shield, and then he's got like a pick hammer thing. Like a war pick.
Yes. Next on we have the Maw, I believe it's called, which is the sort of chaos spawny big mutant guy from the Wasteland.
Right.
Yeah, I like the miniature, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get it and paint it.
I think it depends on what you like. Like I sent this to a guy that I know is really big into like stuff like Tyranids and stuff, and it's his favorite model in the range.
There you go, and there's nothing wrong with that because everyone has different things they love.
But I think this thing's pretty rad, though. I mean, it has like mouths all over it. Like it's got a claw that forms almost like a mantis thing. It also looks like a mouth. It's got 2 heads, a giant mouth coming out of its side. It's pretty crazy looking.
It is, in a good way. So the next one along, I've got the dude with the little arm growing out of his torso, and I've also got the shaman who rides the wolf.
Yep.
Now, her face is so fucking creepy. She's got like that sort of Game of Thrones ISIS zombie feel about her. The whites, like with the sort of like glowing blue eye. Yeah, it's sort of creepy, which I like.
Yep.
So yeah. Now we've got some of the what are they called? The Sarasa. So this is the
the undead tree people.
Yes. So this is their shaman would be the dude with the 2 swords, and one of the warriors would be the guy standing above him who's sort of turning into a tree.
Right.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. The shaman has that whole Grim Reaper thing going on, or maybe like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he looks like a ring wraith that's made of. It's like a ring wraith had sex with a dryad.
That's a disturbing image. Okay, this is the sadomasochist prince that I've got next with the big cleaver. He does look good painted up with his sort of sideways gimp mask that he's got on.
Right.
Kind of reminds me of like the Warhammer ogres because of his big belt buckle with all the teeth on it.
Yeah, like it's like the symbol of the Great Maul from Old Fantasy.
Yeah. So, but I love the use of the colours. Like the contrast between the dark cloaks and the dark leathers up against like the bright flesh and the bright silvers. These models just look beautiful. I'm sorry, I keep dwelling on it, but so often miniatures have just become a tool for people, especially from people from a Games Workshop background. They've become a tool, you know. Oh yeah, that's just another marine I've got to paint, whatever. They don't care. Whereas these models are like, every single one of them is beautiful.
Yep, I agree.
And I just feel I got to keep coming back to that point because it's such an underappreciated thing. Then we've got the other. This is the prince that I don't like, and I don't think you like either, with the sort of Chaos Giant or Warhammer Giant sort of face to him. This sort of long.
Yeah, he's probably my least favorite prince in the game, but the rest of the warband is pretty cool that comes with him.
Yep. Get some more of the Sarasa guys and the Sarasa Prince. The Sarasa Prince is just creepy looking. It reminds me of like if the Nightbringer and a Tree Man made sweet, sweet love, to use your term from earlier.
Yeah. I love how their weapons are like real rusted and worn out looking that also have kind of tree roots growing around them too. They look really cool.
It's interesting to note how their weapons, they've got a lot of long swords instead of like axes and weapons like that. Like the long, thin swords sort of harken back to like long, thin tree branches and rib cages, you know, like thin bones. It's like it's like a subtle metaphor. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I like it because it's where everything else is in this game is thick and muscular. These guys are really lean and sharp.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just love the symbolism. Tundor, he looks beautiful painted up. Absolutely beautiful. With the long dark hair, with the red beads in it. And
yeah. And I think when he's painted, because you said he looks sad, I think when he's painted he almost looks more imposing, like he's staring someone down.
Yeah, like you can almost imagine him like pumping up, like his shoulders rising and falling as he breathes, like he's starting to pump himself up, like he's about to drop into a charge.
Right.
Yeah, it's so true. Then we've got one of my favourite shamans, who's the one, the female who's doing like the casting, and she's got the arms outstretched, and she's just covered in war paint.
Yeah, she's very cool.
She's got to be one of my favorites. I just want to paint.
I like I like how they painted. If you notice her legs, she has bare legs, but they've painted them where they look like war paint has been put over them, and you can just subtly see the flesh underneath, like where it's worn off.
Yeah, it reminds me of like again that Mad Max, like with Furiosa, how she paints like the grease on her forehead and that.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing, except this is over the whole body. You know what? It's probably like ash from like, and ash mixed with blood or something from people they've cooked in the ovens.
The other thing I just noticed are her weapons. She actually has like homemade like bone hooks on the back of her wrists.
Yes, like a homemade Wolverine type thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. All the females in this game are cool. I just got to point that out. Like, I've had male models in this game, which I'm like, but every one of the females, I'm like, I want to paint that. Yeah. So some more of the warriors. Again, good use of like the bones and the leathers and the armor on these guys. They all look like villains in a Conan series. Of course, the Kordu Shaman, which looks so fucking cool, painted up with like the skull on his forehead. And do you reckon it's receding hairline or that he shaves his head?
I think he shaves it. If you look in the art, it's definitely looks like it's shaved. Because I think if you look back, behind the skull, it almost looks like he has a top knot really far back on his head.
He does have a top knot with I think he's got like a skull threaded into his top knot too.
Yep.
So yeah, he's a cool dude. Some more of those Enthrall dudes, or diseased guys with like little stunty arms. They just look so pathetic. Where everyone else has, you're right with what you're saying before, they look more scavengery, because everyone else has like these thick furs and armor plates, and these guys, they're almost just wearing straps.
Right.
And their weapons look even crude compared to other people's weapons. Ooh, the Sarasa champion. He's interesting because he is sort of prince-sized, which is rare among the champions.
Yeah, he's very big. He's the biggest of the champion models. He's not near as tall as a prince, but he's just as wide. He's really wide.
So he's sort of one that looks like his body may have been put in a tree, similar to one of the other characters in the story, except this one's become the tree.
Yeah, if you notice, what's pretty wild is it's got the main skull that you notice right away, and if you look right beside of it, there's an entire human torso where it's almost like two-headed, but one head smaller.
There's another one down on like his lower left rib cage. You can see there's another body, like the skull at least poking out.
Right.
So this could be like an amalgamation of several bodies together, given life, which creepy but cool.
Well, and the skull is the size where this may be like a dead prince, like a Varn skull instead of a standard human skull, based on the size of it compared to other skulls in the game.
Yep. Or the skulls around it could be young innocents, pillaged
Correct.
from a tent one day and put on the open spit. Then you've got another one of the warriors, I believe, with like a little hook. And I love how primitive all the weapons are, but how everyone's got different weapons. It's so easy to give everyone just variants of pieces of jagged metal with swords, but how like this guy looks like he's almost got like someone's letterbox and then just attached a fucking fishing hook to it. It's great. It's great. It's little things like that that make good design.
Well, and so a lot of them have like a two-handed weapon, or they have two like fairly small like one-handed weapons, or then they'll have like two one-handed medium-sized weapons or whatever. Like there's a lot of variation, like you said, in weapon length and weapon design. Makes them look a lot different.
And then we get to some more of these Sarasa guys, and again, they've got that whole skeletal look about them, zombie look. It's that sort of 50-50 mix of dryad and zombie.
Yep.
So cool. And then there's Croc. Now, Croc is not my favourite miniature.
Yeah, he's one of the weaker ones. He's like if somebody shaved a Sasquatch and then did some weird horror movie thing, human centipede type thing, where they've like put another human inside of his chest or something.
Yeah, maybe. It's just fucking weird. I'm guessing he's like a mutated prince or something.
I think the way they kind of describe it in the fluff is it's like almost like mutated Siamese twins, and one grew and one didn't. And then the way he actually works in the game is he's like I think he rolls a lot of attack dice, so if you own him, he's very good on the attack. But if any of your dice come up a wild, which is like essentially like rolling a 6, then if there's another legal target within range of him, your opponent can change the target of the attack.
Ooh, that's very different gameplay. Alright, so that is Hate.
Yep.
So you've got
the only thing we didn't really touch on was like in the campaign, when you upgrade, we talked about upgrading your warriors, but you actually have a village. Every tribe has their own village, and you have to go. You can spend points to either upgrade your individual warriors or spend points to upgrade your village, which will give like kind of. If you upgrade your village, it kind of gives your whole warband a small buff. Where if you upgrade your warriors, it gives that warrior a big buff. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and it also will change your resource collection after the game. You know, whether you work on your torture chamber, your oven, that kind of thing, because that's where you're going to put your captives.
Right, and we spent a lot of time talking about these factions, just how they look different. But the other thing that makes them different is each faction has their own card deck of 8 cards. So that's totally unique. And then every faction shaman has a unique ability to that particular shaman that goes into kind of the personality of the tribe. Like the shaman's specific ability will match the aesthetic and personality of the tribe. And then the other thing that's unique from tribe to tribe, the upgrades we were talking about, where it's the clear sleeves that you slip your card into and it changes your card. There are generic clear sleeves that when you buy an upgrade, anybody can have those, but there are also upgrade sleeves that are specific to a certain tribe. So if you played what's the one that you like?
Umgor,
like they're going to come with I think each tribe comes with 6 unique sleeves that only that particular tribe can upgrade to.
There you go. Alright, well, I think that takes us to the end of it all. Anything else you'd like to talk about before we bugger off?
I kind of thought that the way they did the missions were neat. All the missions are asymmetrical. You almost have an attacker and defender, and then there's a secondary mission that anybody can perform. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yes, such as one of the ones they do in the video, which is where you're attacking the huts in the village, but there's also the female mercenary in there. So you can capture the mercenary, or you can destroy the village, or you can do both. And the other player can also capture the mercenary, and they can try and stop you from destroying the village. So there's a couple of objectives there.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. I mean, definitely watch the video. I probably would have backed it just for the miniatures anyway, but I was pleasantly surprised that the gameplay seems very intriguing, and I thought it would just be kind of one-off games, but I actually like that it's campaign-based, and you get all these, you get to track like your individual warriors, how they go, and you get to name all your warriors. You actually, you assign them a name. So it's very much like Necromunda or Mordheim in that fashion, where you might have a generic warrior guy that performs all these epic feats that you grow really fond of, that you want to protect and not see them drug off and eaten by the enemy tribe.
And that's one of the gameplay aspects we haven't gone over as well. You drag captives away from the field, so once you've knocked out your opponent, basically killed them, they're not dead. Instead, they're just unconscious on the ground, and you can try and walk off the battlefield with them. And if you survive the game, the character that's dragging them survives the game, then you get to take them back and kill them for resources in that oven and in the torture chamber that we were talking about earlier. So there's also a chance, though, for you to rescue the guy that went down. So it's another one of those things. Do you abandon the objective to try and get that young blood that you've just thrown all these resources into after games, who's just constantly been your number one guy, and he's finally fallen? Do you try and get him back? Do you chase after the guy that's knocked him out and dragging him away in a sack? Or do you just go, nah, he's a lost cause and I'm going to fight for the objective?
Yeah, it's definitely very cool.
Alright, so thanks very much for joining me today, Ryan. I know it's quite hard sometimes for us, with you being over in the US and me being in Australia, to try and tee up conversations at the same time of day.
Yeah. I think it's pretty early there for you, so thanks for being accommodating.
Oh, it's all good, man. Thanks very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to chat to you. And it's nice to talk about things that aren't Warhammer for a change.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I've been getting more and more into games that aren't Games Workshop. And so this is definitely one of those that I feel is a cool game. And I actually think like this would be a decent entry-level game for somebody. Like it's because it's just a one-off. Right now you can basically get literally everything, which is, I think I counted, and it's right at 100 miniatures, and then you essentially get 2 copies of the base game where you can play with several people all at once, like on a game night or whatever, for right at $200 US. And you don't ever have to buy expansions or anything for it. You basically get everything that will ever be, for the game. And it would actually, if you found a friend or even a couple friends to split it with, if you didn't have a ton of money on hand, I feel like it would be a pretty decent starter game into miniature wargaming.
It's one of those games that, because it's only a little skirmish board game, where, one person could buy it, and your whole games group could play it, every Saturday or every second Saturday or something. And you could have a campaign that goes all year. And
right.
And you've only got 9 models that you've got to worry about painting up for it as well. You'll get all the models, but you don't have to paint them all. You don't have to go out and buy different expansion packs. There's not going to be a new codex that comes out in 6 months' time and invalidates all the miniatures you already own,
Right.
So, yeah, all great reasons why this may be a great entry-level game for people. So, yeah, once again, thanks very much for coming on the show, Ryan. Always appreciate it. And thanks everyone for watching, and let us know what you think of hate in the comments below, and we'll see you all next time.
Later, guys.